sees. But here we go. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for tuning in this evening to the reception for our current exhibition here at the Silk Purse Arts Center, Out of the Box. My name is Stephen Snyder. I am the Gallery and Communications Coordinator, and I will be your host this evening. Before we get going, I just wanted to let everyone know that the show is going to be on here at the Silk Purse from until March 6th. And our hours are Thursday through Saturday from 12 to 4. And we here at the West Vancouver Community Arts Council are so thrilled and excited to present this show for you. And we would like to take a moment to acknowledge and pay respect to the fact that we are on the unceded territories of the Squamish and the Musqueam and the Tsleil-Waututh people here on the North Shore. And we are ever so grateful to have our hosts as neighbors and friends and companions. And we're thankful to be here in this great little gallery full of all this amazing artwork, full of fantastic artists. So a little bit of background on the show. We have a gift shop at the Silk Purse called the Art Box, and all the artists presented in the exhibition have work in there. And so we have extended that shop into the gallery where there's more space for all of these wonderful pieces of artwork. And it's a big show. There's about 14 artists, and we have 4 of them here with us tonight. So we have Jane Appleby, Maureen Tempest, Jill Taylor, and Sonia Mocnick. So now everyone's going to give a little introduction, tell you a little bit about themselves. And before we get to that, actually, if you have any questions or comments throughout the night and you have something you want to say to our artists or ask them, please feel free to use the chat and we'll get to those questions and comments throughout the night. So Jane Appleby, start us off and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Stephen, for having this opportunity to talk about art. And I'm just happy to always share what I do. I've been painting all my life ever since I guess my dad gave me something to do artwork with. And he was an architect and always inspired that in our family. So I'm happy to, even though I went through science and was an X-ray tech and have 5 children and busy household, I always dreamed to be an artist. And I've been pursuing that in the last 25 years. Teaching and hoping to inspire the artists in all of us, filming for YouTube. I wrote a book recently, The Purposeful Brush, which I'm really proud of because I've also had to look at some of the inspirations that I've put in there to keep me inspired and keep me doing my work. But, I think it's always great to have these opportunities to show our work and talk about it. And it just keeps the momentum going. So I thank you all for joining us tonight.
Excellent. That's wonderful. Sorry. Thanks for that, Jane.
No problem.
So now, Sonia, please introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you, Stephen. And it's great to be together here with you, with Maureen and Jill and Jane. I'm a watercolorist and I've been painting in watercolor for the last 15 years. In the last 5 years, I've really started to try and get my processes out by doing a lot of teaching for the West Vancouver Community Center. And I was about to start with the Roundhouse when the pandemic happened. And I've had to take my work online. So I actually teach a beginner's class and an intermediate class online. And it was only because one of my students last year asked me to create a birthday present for one of my former art students. And from there on, I've been now doing all these classes, which has been really lucky for me. I love to paint both landscapes and realism as well as florals. And then sometimes I get even into portraiture, which I love. And so I really have been grateful to the West Vancouver Art Council because having that little shop there has helped to highlight my hand-painted cards, some of my paintings that you're going to see there. I've been part of the Harmony Festival, and you've had exhibits there for me as well with that. And I know Jane's been in there, and Maureen and Jill, I know in the past with Harmony, they've been involved too. And so I'm really grateful, especially for the coloring pages, because I do coloring pages as well. And for this time of the pandemic, that's really helpful to a lot of people to get into something related to their creativity. So I am very happy to have the opportunity and keep painting. I think it's my students who keep me going during this time too. So thank you, Stephen.
Awesome. That's great. Thanks, Sonia. So now Jill Taylor, please give us a little introduction about yourself.
Okay, so I'm a fiber artist predominantly, although I do some botanical illustration. I come from a family where everybody stitched, sewed, painted, did whatever. I had a very corporate career, which fortunately was well paid. So we retired early. And then I could go back and do what I really wanted to do, which was study embroidery, which I did over an extended period at the Gail Harker Center for Creative Studies down in Mount Vernon. You go down for a week and then you bring work home for 3 months. The irony is the Royal School of Needlework at Hampton Court in the UK, we went back to work in the UK in the 80s, and like I was walking distance from the Royal School of Needlework and didn't even know it. But anyway, that's life. Anyway, so through Gail's class, I mean, we did everything from a lot of acrylic work, a lot of drawing, a lot of sketching, a lot of experimenting. I'm not a great one for experimenting. I just love stitch. It's just something that's good for the soul. It keeps your hands busy, keeps me out of trouble. A lot of my inspiration comes from my botanical illustration classes that I took with Elizabeth Mancini at Emily Carr. She's wonderful. But I sort of do lots of different things, and I have usually a supply of hand-stitched cards of various styles and stitches at the Silk Purse, including some, I doubt whether there's any there right now, Ladies with Attitude, which is a form of needlework called stump work, which everybody seems to love. So I just like making people happy and making people smile and keeping myself out of trouble.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jill. And Maureen Tempest, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Thanks, Stephen. Jill, I have one of those cards of your ladies. One of my friends got it for me, and I loved it. I too am a fiber artist, and I know Jill through the Vancouver Guild of Fiber Arts, which we were both members of. I've been retired for 7 years now. I was a secondary school counselor, and many years ago, I got a home ec degree. And although I had sewn ever since I was a child, my mom and my sister and I all sewed and did needle arts. It was in the home ec degree where I took more design courses, and I had an instructor, Joanne, who was a fairly well-known fiber artist in Vancouver at the time. I believe she lives in Europe now, but she introduced me to natural dyeing and batik and many different surface design methods, which I fell in love with and used a little bit, but not a lot at that time in my life. I went on to be a teacher and then a counselor and was very busy working. But all through those years, I would take the odd art course or workshop related to fiber art or just art in general. And I did painting and drawing, watercolor, oil, a number of different art courses. It was around 2000, though, that I got more into taking art courses. And a lot of it was for stress management with my work. I just really needed to balance the intensity of work with my creativity. And I just built on it and went from painting and drawing back to fabric again, started painting on fabric. And I love to do embroidery, painting, all kinds of techniques. with fabric and anything related to textiles. The two pieces that I have tonight are both inspired by the fabric themselves, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. But I'm very grateful for having creativity already part of my life before the pandemic, because it's saved my butt. It's just been amazing to have all this time to do what I love to do, and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Although I did wonder whether I could still talk to people tonight. I feel like isolation has, I don't know what it's done, but anyway, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Great. That was wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for that bit of background. And yeah, so now we're going to take a little virtual tour of the exhibition so that you can have a bit of an overview of what it looks like, and hopefully you'll come into the Silk Purse and see everything up close and personal and get all the great details. So let's do that now. Sorry, it's just going to be the video disappeared on me. Sorry, everyone. There we go.
David, I'm on Zoom.
Okay, got the video back.
Yay.
Okay, so this is as you come in off of our entrance from the waterfront. This is kind of the view you'll see of the gallery, how everything's laid out.
That looks really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So as you come in, the first work we have are these great watercolors by an artist named Jelena Sparica. She has these great watercolors that are matted here that are available as well.
Nice.
And next we move on to Sonia and some examples of her work, these 4 great watercolors here.
Yeah, we were traveling virtually by painting these images because I took these pictures on a couple of different trips that I had. One, which was part of one of the cruises I took. So you see the guitar guy and the lady in Greece with her yellow purse, and others from other locations.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love the light, Sonia. You've really captured the feeling of the warmth and the heat and the light.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Maureen.
And then those pieces we just saw were by an artist named Meghan Sharir. And here's another painter, Irene King.
I like the rhythms in these little pieces here.
And then here are Jill's 3 pieces.
3 pieces. And they are all metal thread embroidery, which isn't my exclusive style, but shiny threads. We all like a bit of bling. Here you can see the influence of the botanical illustration. And this is a cherry blossom tree.
Cherry blossom.
Cherry blossom tree. Dandelion. And the one at the top actually is another cherry blossom tree. Yeah.
Yeah. And then here's another painter, local painter, Doria Fochi. There's some of her work.
Is it painted?
Yes, yeah, they're all paintings. this great sculpture from some reclaimed wood by a gentleman named Bob Barry.
I like how it looks like it's coming to life from very wise piece of wood that traveled who knows where across the beach.
Totally.
Yeah, it's very nice. Oh, this is whimsical. Who's
Very
this?
whimsical.
Yeah,
Great
these
colors.
are some works by an artist named Annie Bohni.
Ah, those are feel-good paintings.
Yes, happy colors.
And people getting together. I like that. Even if we can do this virtually, it feels really nice to be present
Totally.
about some artwork that is nicely displayed. It was a great show.
Yeah. Aw. Then we have some cards by some of our artists here, and then a book. This is Jane's new book.
Oh, yeah.
With my inspirations that I've noticed, I've been offering the students on how to keep inspired and what I do when I go out plein air painting. And so it starts off like with simple words like open your eyes to possibilities, look for something that touches the heart, and each page has a painting. And I even have a picture of my demo that I did at the West Bands Art Council, where I show the two pieces and it says share it with appreciation, and that's sharing our work and making it a purpose beyond something that we just do because we love it, and because there always is somebody that enjoys looking at what we do and hearing about it. So
Yeah. Totally.
Were
So
those
just,
other ones photography that we
yes,
just
yeah, let me
discussed?
just go back to those for
That was
a
very
quick
nice.
second. Yeah, so we've got these wonderful black and white
Mm.
photographs by John Stewart.
Oh,
Then and then some more photographs by an artist named Francine Drouin.
very effective framing on those.
Yeah. And then some great little dioramas by an artist, and her name is Joanne Frewer. Yeah, and we'll be able to talk a bit more about everyone's work a little more in depth once our tour is over. So now we've got Maureen's pieces.
Mhm.
Those are lovely.
Those are both based on the materials that I was working with at the time. That top one is silk. It's layered, different silks with hand embroidery and machine embroidery on it. This one is a hand-dyed cotton that has machine and hand embroidery on it.
Oh, wonderful.
I love
Very
yours.
nice. Yeah, very nice, Maureen.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jill.
And then we've got some original artwork here, just matted. There's some great watercolors by Eileen Fong. And then some great, some more water media by Jane.
Yes, so those are some
Really colorful, bold ones to the right.
and they were actually done all on location. These are plein airs, even the abstract. And
Oh, I love the waterfall.
Beautiful.
at Cypress Falls. I go to West Van most often for my outings. And so I appreciate being able to show the local scenery here. And yeah, those were fun little plein airs.
Excellent. That's great. So that's what the show looks like. So
Thank
please
you.
come
That's
on into
great.
the Silk Purse Thursday through Saturday, 12 to 4 to get a better look at that stuff. And now we'll take a closer look at everyone's pieces if they want to say a little bit more about them. So let's pull up pull up Jane's work. Yeah, if there's anything else you'd like to say about these pieces, Jane?
Well, I guess it's always nice to share that the main part of my process is actually being outdoors and getting inspired there, getting to know more about how I feel outdoors and what it's giving me, and I bring that to my work. So it's very expressive, and then of course I use these to build on larger pieces that I do in studio that I call lyrical expressions, because I feel there's music in the landscape that presents itself in my work, and it's very vibrant. I love color, and I love experimenting with different tools and seeing how paint and the expression of the outdoors combine to make a unique expression. So that's what I've been working on lately.
Oops. Ah, excellent. Awesome. Awesome. That's great. Thanks, Jane.
Yeah, you're welcome. I don't know if I can show that picture of the West Van. This one, I don't know if everybody can see it. So that's when I had the opportunity, a lovely demo outside on the porch, and I did 2 paintings that day. And I got a lady walking by to take that photo because it was so fun to capture the exuberance of that particular day. And I'm glad I included it in my book too. So it's kind of a full circle there of how you inspire, how art inspires, writing inspires, and discussing it with others. And you know, I think it's always nice to connect that way through our creativity.
Definitely. Okay, so.
By the way, in the background here is called Nature Rejoices, and that's that was based on being out in the nature and seeing its happiness. So hopefully we can get it from there too.
That's great. So now we'll move on to Sonia. Tell us a bit about these pieces.
Well, it's amazing. You know how when you take your photographs when you're on your holidays and you are inspired by something you saw at the moment, and then you go back and you wonder, oh, that's interesting. What was it doing at the time? Why did I take that? And so as I look at my photographs, and if I decide that I want to actually make them into a composition, I start to try and look at all the different factors and maybe zooming into a particular area that I really enjoyed. For example, Guitar Guy was the first one that he is a guitarist who was just busking in Croatia. And I just love the fact his guitar was so littered with all these incredible little screws and things like that. And he has a little monkey hanging off of it. Those kind of details, you don't really see it until you start looking at it, and it just inspires you more. Actually, this series that I did, the one from Vietnam was done a little bit earlier with the pedal bikes, but they all show the ingenuity of people and how they can use their hands and what they're doing in a particular moment. And I kept coming back to that all last year when the pandemic was going on. It was trying to find inspiration from everybody doing something different. And it just kept popping up. And I ended up using some of those compositions to teach with and do videos for the students as well. So, and I have to give a shout out to Jelena, because she didn't actually come, and she's part of the show, but she's also one of my intermediate students. And I've just seen her grow so much. So when I see the picture she has right now with her, the boots and the petticoats, she has come so far. So I'm really pleased that she's in the show because she's worked hard for that. So thank you, Stephen.
Stephen, I don't know if you're wanting those pictures to show up, but I can't see them.
I know, I was just, something's going on here. I just realized that as Sonia was talking.
Yeah, all I can see are the little icons.
Yeah. Sorry about that, everybody. There we go.
This huge learning curve we've all been on.
Boy, you said it.
Yeah.
Glad it's you, Stephen, and not me.
while you're working
Jane,
on
is the painting behind you a watercolor?
here for me,
Jane,
Jane. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so that's an oil on canvas.
oil, okay.
But the other one is an oil on board that was painted on location at Ambleside. I framed it there. So I do work in watercolor for my plein air, and I've done classes in watercolor because it's I think the essential medium to really grasp all sorts of elements of painting, layering, transparency, and it's difficult. You have to leave space and all that, you know, Sonia. So it's great. I carry it over to my other work, including in acrylic and oil, and that's what I usually work in. I didn't mention that in the beginning, but I do work in all those three media. How about you, Sonia? You've worked
Well, I'm just thinking of you, Jane, because I'm inspired all the time when you get out there in any kind of weather.
I do.
I can't do that anymore.
It's okay. I just have to be outdoors. That's just me.
I think that is incredible, and your dog with you as well. I mean, you give inspiration to all of us who love to be out there plein air painting. And then when you say your images are lyrical, they absolutely are, because you keep inspiring with all the different colors.
Oh,
And yeah, there's so much inspiration in everything that I see you do. I think it's wonderful. I really do. Yeah.
well, I'm amazed with people that do things in their home and just find that quiet, gentle, continuous work, like with the fabrics, is absolutely amazing to me. I think that's beautiful.
Jill, I could not believe when I saw the detailed work that you've got in those three pieces that you showed. The same with Maureen. My goodness, both machine and hand stitching. I don't know how you keep your eyes from going cross.
For me, I would say very expensive glasses.
And good lighting.
I have to have a dispensing optician who understands what I need my glasses to do. Yeah. So what they do, they power them up down here somewhat. Yeah. Whoop, there I am. Look at that.
Yeah. No wonder you can see. These are amazing. They're such sweet.
And also, you know, there's magnifying systems that you can use, but mostly I just use my eyes. The top piece there is a little, it's a technique called ornue, which for some reason or other is always regarded, apart from something called underside couching, which is related, as the most difficult and challenging. I don't think it is. I think it's just a wonderful way of drawing, because you lay silver or gold special threads called Japan gold backwards and forwards, and you have underneath it a picture which you've printed onto some organdy or something like that, or some silk, and then you just keep following. Yeah, it's paint by numbers in a sense, except as it grows, because of the sheen of the actual underlying threads, it's just kind of magical. And I've done some quite big pieces, which are always very popular.
How big?
How big? 8 by 11.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not big like you're big, but you knew that it takes about 2 hours to do a row of 1 inch.
Yes.
So so I mean, it's usually friends who say, I want one of your pieces, Jill, and I'm very happy to sell them. I don't sell them for you can't price according to the amount of work that goes into textile art. It's just you know, it doesn't exist.
Yeah,
but once you get an idea in your head and you've got to get it out, I think all of us artists know you've just got to get it out, and it doesn't really matter whether, you know, if somebody then wants it to hang on a wall in their home. I mean, that is just so amazingly complimentary. It just does give me a big thrill. Yeah. So that little one there is an ornue piece. Then the one underneath it, the dandelions, that's basically metal thread embroidery using a variety of metal threads, of which there are a huge amount. And I'm fortunate to have a friend who is very good at sourcing stuff. So otherwise, I couldn't even afford to indulge in metal thread embroidery. And yeah, that's just, you know, the padding under the dandelion heads. I don't know, that one was just kind of fun to do. And I've done another one after that, but it's not in the show. And then underneath that.
Beautifully framed, by the way. I love that shadow effect with the.
Thank you. Thank you. And
And
then
Jill,
this,
you dye your background fabrics yourself, don't you?
yes, I do. Usually, well, they'll be Procyon cold water dyed for the most part. Well, they'll all be a plant-based or silk, which also is the only protein that will take the cold water immersion dye. I live in an apartment, so I'm a little bit limited to some of the stuff I would otherwise do. Or sometimes I'll just put a bit of fabric on a bit of plastic and just even watercolor paint, just make a paint, because if you're not going to wear it, once you press it, I've tested it, it stays wonderfully stable. We all know how when you're doing watercolors, how they dye your clothing if you drop something accidentally on a white blouse you're wearing. Stupid thing to do. Anyway, this one is this is a cherry blossom tree. It was the second one I did because I just had fun. And all this, what you would think as sequins, are actually metal, what they call spangles, which are they look the same except they're not plastic, they're metal, and there's a very specific production way of doing it. And this friend of mine who's good at sourcing stuff, she is absolutely amazing at going to thrift stores and getting saris. And it's such a shame that these saris are being sent to thrift stores. But if those of us who thrift them the way we do and take all the findings off them, they would actually land up going to apparently some baling place up in Prince Rupert and just being destroyed completely. So at least they're getting a second life. So some of the materials I use are recycled, others are brand new. So that's, and I think that the background on that one, that's sort of the bottom end of an IKEA linen curtain that I took out the curtain. I mean, you know, you've got to just use what you've got at hand. Yeah. So those are all metal thread, and yeah, all inspired by nature. And I do like to not just be tied into the box of traditional embroidery design. And I guess that's where I take it further is by designing my own pieces rather than working with kits and stuff, which is why I wanted to study art and design, was so that I could design and pull stuff out of my head.
Totally.
It's appropriate for this out of the box show. I love it.
Totally. Now we'll just zoom on over to Maureen's pieces.
Thanks, Stephen. I love Jill's spangle story. I know the friend that sources the spangles, and so I recently found a sari that had the metal spangles on it, and it was at the thrift store, and I brought it home and began to try to take those darn things off of the sari. This is going to be a long-term project, let me tell you. And I have little sparkles all over my apartment from the sari. Anyway, I now have a great appreciation for her collecting all of those spangles. Anyway, back to my pieces here. The top one started with something that's called a silk hanky. And what that is a mesh, a cocoon, a silk cocoon that has been teased apart over a frame so that you get a very thin mass of silk fibers before they're spun into yarn. And they often are sold already dyed. And the one that I had was blue. And I started to pull on it, and it made me think of layers of, if you took a slice of the earth and you saw the layers below the surface of the earth. And as I pulled on the fibers and stretched them out a bit, they become quite translucent. And I thought, okay, I'm going to build layers, and what would really show the layers off. And I thought of complementary colors. So the orange, I had a piece of orange silk So I stretched out the blue silk fibers and laid them on top of the orange. And then I started to build the layers by adding in threads and teasing apart little bits of the silk so that more of the orange was exposed. And I had some beads and various different things that I stitched into the layers as if there were treasures below the surface of the earth. And I had a very thin piece of padding in behind the two layers of silk. And so when I stitched, it gave a little bit of relief to the surface of the project. So it evolved as I started to play with the materials. And I liked the color combination. I don't remember what I called it, Stephen, but something to do with
Treasures underneath.
yes, that's it. And I have many, many treasures in my stash. And it's so much fun to start with a theme like a particular color combination and to go into my stash to see what little bits I have that will fit with what I'm trying to achieve. And when you gather a lot of stuff in your stash, it's like an artist, painter having a whole bunch of tubes of different colors of paint. You get to pick and choose. And I have a lot of stuff. So I had lots of bits to choose from. So that was purely out of my own imagination that I created this piece.
Cool.
We can move on to the one below. This one started with a piece of hand-dyed fabric that I found in a basket at the museum that I visit in San Diego. It was a small piece of fabric that someone else had dyed. And when I saw it, it made me think immediately of when the water meets the shoreline after the tide has gone out and there are bits of rocks and shell and the foam where the water has bubbled up and kelp and various different bits that are left right along the water's edge. So the fabric itself was just the pale teal color and the green and yellow. And then I added some layers of free motion embroidery, which is like thread painting. I use different colors of thread to embellish. And I had some different pieces of ribbon and beads. And you can't tell from this photo, but if you were to get up really close to the picture, there are a lot of details that show some of the textures that I could imagine were on the edge of the shoreline. So again, this was the fabric that gave me the idea, and then I added to it in layers and again put a piece of padding in behind the fabric so that when I stitched, it gave it some relief and texture for the surface. I also called this piece one of my hotel projects because when I travel, I often travel by myself, and sometimes I don't feel comfortable going out in the evening on my own. So I always have a fiber art project that I can work on. So I had picked up this piece of fabric in San Diego and took it back to the hotel, and I always carry some stitching materials with me and some threads when I travel. And so I was able to work on this project while I was there and while I was near the ocean. And I have several hotel projects that have traveled along with me and kept me company while I travel.
Very
I think this
cool.
one's called Water's Edge.
Yes.
And it looks like you can travel through your piece with the different textures that you've put in there. So it's an interesting sequence of traveling.
Yes.
And it's interesting that you were saying that you're often doing this while away. And I think extra inspirations might come at those times too. I don't know.
I think so too.
What would you say that it is, that you're on an adventure maybe, and then you're more adventurous in your work? I'm curious why you yeah.
Well, I'm usually inspired when I travel to do something different with my artwork, and I have many different styles of work that I do, and more recently I've done some wall hangings that are like a travel diary. And when I travel, I pick up bits of thread and fabric and just memorabilia that I know I can work somehow into a wall hanging. So there'll be on my wall in my apartment, and every time I look at it, it reminds me of a place that I've been.
Nice.
And a couple of the tours I've been on have been textile tours. So we've gone to places like old factories that maybe were where linen was spun and woven into fabric, or we went to a silk factory on one of my tours. And so there's often little bits of fabric and textiles, things that I can collect there that I can then put into a wall hanging. So yeah, my travels inspire a lot of different ideas.
And I'm sure for Sonia, with your travels too, how much more goes into your work because of that, right? I was just thinking for Sonia, she's traveling a lot.
Totally. Yeah.
No, it's so true, Jane. It's true.
Yeah. Now that we can have a bit of a better look at Sonia and Jane's pieces, because now we can actually see them while you were talking about them. Yeah, everything that you were saying about travel and capturing space and these characters is very evident.
Where are you in the orange dress, Sonia?
It's not me, but I'm in Heraklion on one of the islands of Greece. And I walked behind this lady, and it's a tunnel, but the purposefulness of her casual attire, including the baseball cap, and then to have this gorgeous yellow purse that it looks heavy. I don't know what she was carrying inside of it. And it was just so astounding to me that here we are in this very casual environment. She's just walking through, but she has a determination of what it is that she's doing. And yet it's and yet she's the one who's in movement, because there's like 3 bikes there that nothing is going on. And she's there purposely moving forward with this wonderful purse. And it was quite something to me. I had to paint it. It was a combination of all the factors of that neutral color in the shadows underneath this archway. There was a bit of light as you came through, and then to have her in this environment, just we were in a real casual shift. This purse, something else.
I love it.
Yeah, no,
thank you very much.
Such wonderful pieces, and all the light and motion really also plays into Jane's work as well, as you were saying, Jane, and capturing things on plein air, even though it's abstract, is a very interesting concept.
Yes, I know, because I guess sometimes it doesn't work out to do it realistically, and so you decide to work on the color and patterns that you see. But most of the time, it's the emotion that I want to put into the work, whether it's expressed with vibrant color, and it does present itself in nature, as most artists would attest to. But I guess as an artist, you want to heighten certain things that have appealed to you and at the moment, and the motion and life that I feel there is what I try to capture. So I try to make my work feel like it's moving with its rhythms, and it's just really enjoyable to express it further in an abstractive form, and hope that connects with people. And it's always curious to me to see what people see in my abstracted works, because they're based on landscapes, but there's a lot more to it. I think it's full of my own life and what it brings to it. So it should connect. We all live vibrant lives, and one way or another, we all struggle with things, and we all find joy in so many beautiful things that we can experience. So I think as an artist, we always want to bring that to our work, and that's what I hope I've done there.
definitely.
Thanks for showing them.
Oh, totally. Oh.
Jane, I just love how when you incorporate, you not only are using the strokes within your painting to kind of work with your color to create that sense, but I also find that you occasionally throw in shapes that I'm not expecting, but that create something even more to the painting that you've got, and you have to really look for them, which is interesting.
They surprise me too. It's actually sometimes an invitation. The canvas invites me to play out something kind of unusual and new, and that surprises me too. But I think it comes from the plein air painting. Those are strokes that have been somewhere before, I believe, and they end up in a different combination on the larger works. I've always tried to figure out what it is that I'm playing out besides all the design elements that we think about. And that's what I love about doing expressive on plein air work, or what I call wet on wet, quick gestures, because you have to work with those surprises, and that challenge has always been intriguing to me. I'm sure it happens with fabric, right?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Yeah. And Stephen, can I just give a quick shout out for any fiber lovers who are watching?
Yes, please do.
The cherry blossom exhibit last year had to be postponed, but I think it's usually one of the best attended shows annually at the gallery. It's all textile, and it's running this year, April the 8th to May the 1st. So anybody who's watching, who's interested, just loves art for that matter, but enjoys the Cherry Blossom Festival, missed it last year, it's happening this year.
Good.
And I told the organizer I would try and get a shout out for her.
Yes, no, that's wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, it's a great show every year. Yeah, come on and see it in April, everyone. April and May. Yeah.
How long is this show on again, Stephen?
This show runs until March the 6th, so there's still quite a bit of time for everyone to come in and see everything. Nice. Take in all of these great works of art, all these paintings and sculptures and photographs and textile work. It's a pretty stunning show to see all of it together, all these different forms of creativity. Yeah, so please everyone come on in and see it.
Yeah, and you've done a great job of hanging it. I think it's looking really good from here, Stephen. Well done.
Yes.
Thanks. Not the easiest thing to do is to make something cohesive when there's so many different art forms there.
Yeah, but it's fun. It's like a puzzle. It's trying to see what goes together, you know.
The lighting is so good in the gallery.
Oh, well, thanks.
You're done good.
Well, it helps when you have amazing art to work with. So yeah, so like we were just talking about, the show is on until March the 6th here at the Silk Purse Gallery in West Vancouver, just beside John Lawson Park in Ambleside. So please come on in and see it. We've got all the appropriate health and safety measures in place, so it can be a nice, comfortable viewing exhibition for you to experience this wonderful art. I think that's it. I think we've said a lot about the art and about the show, so I think we can wrap it up. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this evening, and thank you to our wonderful artists for speaking about your work. It was a
Thanks, Stephen.
To hear your conversations.
Thank you, Stephen, and nice to see everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Nice to see you too.
Good to see you.
Totally, yeah, great to see everyone. So again, thanks everyone for coming out, and we'll see y'all later. Take care. Have a great evening, everyone.